Quadratic inequalities are something that, see, it's pretty confusing, but once you get it, it'll become very easy to you. The main thing you have to know about inequalities are two things. How do you flip the signs, and how do you find the answers using the roots? So how do you flip the signs in the first place? Because if you flip the sign wrongly, the whole equation will be wrong. So let's say you have a more than, where something is more than something. If you were to add or subtract something, it's fine. If you were to multiply and divide by a positive value, it's fine. You do not have to flip the sign. You only flip the sign when you're dividing or multiplying it by a negative value. And that's because if you were to make both sides negative, it will completely flip both sides on a magnitude scale. Like one will become smaller and the other one will become bigger. So you have to flip the sign. This is an example here. If you were, 1 is more than -2. So if you were to multiply them both by -1, you have to flip the sign because -1 cannot be more than 2. The second one is, how do you find the answers using the roots given from your quadratic inequality? So there are two ways to sketch a line or a line. Graph sketching or number line. But I myself use number line because it's simpler and it's accepted in both UEC and SPM. So but they both involve the same concept. When you're using number line, you need to take note of the dot. The dot represents your roots. So you get the roots the same way as you will normally do if you're doing a quadratic equation. You put it to one side, and then factorize it. But you have to make sure that the ax squared, the a, has to be positive. And if it's negative and you want to make it positive, remember to flip the sign. So after you flip the sign, then you factorize it like normal, then you should get two roots. But you cannot simply say that x is less than this and less than this, because if you do it, you will realize that some of your values will not match the requirements needed. It will not make sense if you sub it into the equation. It will simply not make sense. So the way you want to make it make sense would be to put it on a line and then separate it into two zones. So the way I would like to memorize it would be, if it's more than, then the answers that you will get would be the bigger zone, because it's more than, it's more. So like if you have a bigger space, so it's more than. So I put it as the plus sign because more. And then the smaller zone, just the one in the middle, is the less than zone. So since it's less, so I immediately assume that it is the middle part. So how do you find the solutions based on this more than or less than thing? So the first thing you have to do is you need to draw the line and then mark your roots using either a circle dot or a shaded dot. Circle dot if you have your signs like this, but if your signs also have equal to, you need to put a shaded dot because it means you include the root themselves as part of the solution. So once you do that, make sure you put the bigger root on your right side and the smaller root on your left side, because it is going from a negative value to 0 to a bigger value from left to right. If you're not, then your whole equation will be completely messed up. So after you do that, then you refer to what your answer is. Is it more than or less than? If it's more than, then you just cover up the middle and look at the plus side. So you look at the first one on the right. Everything after that is the same. Is correct. So everything more than the bigger root is correct. So in this case, if it's more than, then x would be more than 1/3. And then everything smaller than the smaller value will also be correct. So x is less than -2. So you have two answers here. That is for if your sign is more than, okay? But if your sign is less than, in this case, then you will need to use the middle part, the negative part. So x has to be in the middle of these two numbers. So x has to be less than the bigger number, but more than the smaller number, as you see here. So yeah, I would love to explain why is this case, but I do not want to confuse you guys and myself more by doing that. So if you guys want to find out more about why, you can Google it, or you can PM me personally, and I'll try my best to explain. But if you just want a simple understanding of why it's like that, just sub in the values one by one. Like sub in the middle, like the number that is in the middle of both numbers, and sub in a value that is bigger or smaller than both numbers. And you will see that one of them will not match the equation if you were to simply use the roots as the solution. So yeah, do not instantly write x is less than 1 over 3, x is less than negative 2. Do not do this. Instead, use a number line and try and find which zone does x has to be in. Does it have to be in the middle, or does it have to be in the bigger zone? And I think